Hey, Natasha Neese here, author of Rise Up and Rock, A Front Woman's Journey. And today we're going to read chapter 3. It's called The Cusp of Becoming. As the Saucy Band's set list grew, I couldn't resist suggesting more Led Zeppelin. Every time I stepped up to sing one of their songs, it felt like stepping further into my own power, vocally, physically, and energetically. Sometimes my voice would surprise me, and the resonance of the higher notes would ignite something wild and unstoppable within me. Audiences began requesting more Zeppelin, echoing the recognition I was already feeling. Soon I found myself diving deep into their catalog, listening obsessively, truly discovering Led Zeppelin for the first time. That's when I began to clearly see Robert Plant, not just as the uninhibited, sexy frontman, but as a dreamer, a mystic, a lover of nature. His voice carried the winds of mythology and reverence for the divine. His lyrics spoke of longing, passion, transcendence, and the sacred within the earthly. I felt profoundly aligned with the way he so wildly and tenderly gave his soul to the world. Led Zeppelin, I realized, was never just about rock and roll. Their music was beckoning the awakening of the human spirit. The emotional force and inspirational depth of their songs called to me like a lighthouse through the fog. And so the truth emerged. I didn't want to sing anything else. Singing their songs felt like a personal reclamation. And in that reclamation, a dream was born. The vision of a Led Zeppelin tribute band, not just to cover their songs, but to embody their mythos. The name Living Loving Led was created before the band. It was more than a name, it was a declaration to the world. Little did I know that for years to come, I would be living, loving, and breathing that band. It became my passion, my identity, my teacher. And like the music of Led Zeppelin itself, it was filled with love, the love that I poured into every detail, every rehearsal, every performance. But love is not always easy. It challenges us, stretches us, and sometimes breaks us open in ways we could have never imagined. It all began with an opportunity. Through Saucy, I gained a small network of contacts that opened the door to an exciting debut for Living Loving Led, headlining the main stage on Saturday night at the Art Along the Rogue Festival in Grants Pass. It was ambitious, perhaps even reckless, to aim for such a prominent debut without an established lineup. But the vision burned too brightly to hold back. I was determined to make it happen, even if it felt like assembling a puzzle with pieces I hadn't found yet. Saucy's founders, James and Elena, had graciously agreed to perform in our debut show, even though they had decided not to join the tribute permanently. I was incredibly grateful, as they learned an entire set list of Led Zeppelin for a single performance, a gesture of support and generosity I didn't take lightly. Meanwhile, Saucy's new bassist, JC, had a deep love for Led Zeppelin and a sharp musical instinct. Tension had been steadily building between JC, James, and Elena, so when the opportunity arose, it felt like a natural progression for JC to step away from Saucy and join me in launching Living Loving Led. JC was a seasoned rock and roller, well known for his reputation as a ladies' man. He was medium height with long, wavy salt and pepper hair. He wore his rocker-style clothing and accoutrements well on his lean frame, a body shaped by the rock and roll lifestyle of coffee for breakfast, beer for lunch, and free bar food wherever he happened to be playing that night. His face and voice had a slightly effeminate quality, which drew in the rocker women, and I was no exception. When he joined Saucy, I have to admit, I was a bit intrigued by his infamous reputation, so we started dating. I had always been in long-term relationships with bandmates during my teens through my 30s, and I loved the collaborative family feel that came with it. It never caused problems within the band, and if anything, it was the best part of the relationship. In fact, the band usually kept the relationship going longer than it might have lasted otherwise, which was certainly the case with JC, although we only dated a few months. We found a drummer and rehearsed with him a few times, but he struggled with the complexity of Zeppelin's material and ultimately bailed the day before our big headlining debut, citing illness. Felt like a disaster. Everything we'd worked so hard to prepare for was suddenly at risk. But as often happens when we're fully committed to a vision, the universe provides. A friend in the music community connected us with a professional drummer in Corvallis named John, who, we were told, knew Zeppelin inside and out. And John said he'd do it. The very next day, the day of the show, John arrived. We ran through a few songs at JC's rehearsal studio, and within moments, it was clear John was the real deal. His timing, energy, and command of the music was undeniable. Everything just clicked. In fact, John may have been the most professional among us, and his timely presence felt like a divine affirmation. That night, the show was a huge success. I was exhilarated to cut loose on a big outdoor stage under the glow of the lights, feeling the freedom of the open air and the mounting energy of the crowd. As we played, more and more people gathered as if word was spreading through the town with every song. Each band member rose to the occasion, and the crowd's enthusiasm reflected our own in a reciprocal exchange of tangible energy. My friend Eric captured the entire performance on video, which became Living Loving Led's very first video on YouTube. The feedback after the show was overwhelmingly positive. Annette, a respected local singer, pulled me aside and urged me to keep the band going, to keep the name Living Loving Led. I had worried it might be too long, too clunky, but she dismissed those concerns with confidence. Her encouragement landed deeply, and it meant a lot to me. And then there was Randy, a tall, older man, the singer and manager of Hot Gossip, the most popular rock and roll cover band in the region. I had only met him once before at Cedarwood Bar in Grants Pass, when he came to see Saucy perform. We closed that night's show with Zeppelin's Rock and Roll, and I had stepped off stage and into the audience to sing, completely immersed in the crowd. People gathered around, cheering, dancing, singing the words with me. It was a full-on scene. After the show, Randy came up and introduced himself saying, "You got it all, girl. If Zepparella could see you sing, you'd have a job." Whether or not that was true, it felt like a genuine moment of recognition from someone who had clearly seen a lot of bands and been on a lot of stages. Randy was there again when Living Loving Led debuted at Art Along the Road, this time with more than just kind words. He complimented the entire show and then offered to run sound and lights moving forward completely free of charge until we started bringing in good money. At the time, I had no idea how pivotal his presence would become. It was the beginning of a partnership that would go on to anchor Living Loving Led for years to come. In Randy, a true ally appeared, generous, grounded, and unwavering. Buoyed by the success of our debut, I knew it was time to solidify the lineup. With JC's help, we began auditioning guitarists and drummers, searching for the right combination of talent, appearance, and commitment. John, the excellent drummer from Corvallis who had played our debut show, was considering joining and drove down with a promising guitarist to meet JC and me. It was meant to be both a rehearsal and a band photo opportunity, as we were confident about the potential lineup. We wanted to use our time together as best we could, since John and the guitarist had traveled several hours. But when we started to play, it became clear the guitarist hadn't prepared at all. He was learning the songs on the spot. He later told us that he'd recently become homeless and hadn't had access to his guitars. I had scheduled a photo shoot with my friend Debbie, a talented photographer I'd worked with once before. She had already hauled loads of gear inside and had set up and had I had scheduled the photo shoot with my friend Debbie, a talented photographer I'd worked with once before. She had already hauled loads of gear inside and set up an elaborate shoot by the time I realized the guitarist wasn't going to work out. I didn't have the heart to cancel on her after all that effort and felt too much compassion for the guitarist to shut him down on the spot. So we went through with the shoot, even though it lasted for hours and ended up being painfully expensive for me. It felt like a total waste of time and money. John was visibly annoyed by the situation, and in hindsight, I don't blame him. I should have just called it for what it was. But I did walk away with one expectedly great photo with JC's Black Great Dane, a nod to Black Dog. After another audition, we found Dominic on guitar and Bill on drums. Dominic, a short, handsome, middle-aged man with overgrown chocolate curls, had excellent skill and dynamic stage presence and proved to be a passionate Jimmy Page. And Bill, a seasoned rocker with long white hair, tattoos, and an impressive resume, brought the look and technical skill we needed. JC naturally stepped into the role of music director, and at the time, I didn't question it. He had an encyclopedic knowledge of Zeppelin's music, and we were rehearsing in his backyard studio, which made the setup feel like his domain. But as rehearsals went on, his need for control began to poison our atmosphere. When Dominic started to challenge his direction, JC was quick to reassert his authority, reminding us that it was his space, his expertise, and therefore his rules. I said nothing. I didn't want to upset the fragile balance. But in that silence, I was giving my power away. And the more I gave it away, the harder it became to reclaim it without consequence. Some part of me knew that, but fear of conflict kept me quiet. Fear of rejection. Fear that if I pushed back, everything would fall apart. I convinced myself that he held the upper hand, and I sold myself short. That unspoken dynamic took root early and set a precedent that would echo for years to come. I didn't want to control everything, but felt passionate about co-creating something elevated and worthy of honoring Led Zeppelin. But collaboration isn't silence. Deferring too often in the name of harmony had a cost. I didn't yet understand that the foundation of any true creative force must include self-respect, or that the right people won't be scared off by boundaries and clarity. They're drawn to them because it signals something real, something rooted, something worth believing in.